Hey, you guys, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. As always, if you love this, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my podcast too, which I film all these on at Better Than Yesterday, Jayla and Baby. So yeah, let's get right into it. And comment any questions you have too, because I always respond to the comments as well. So here we go. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Better Than Yesterday podcast. This is Jayla and Baby, episode 42. And today we're going to be talking about how to have difficult conversations. Now, as always, we're going to talk about what is a difficult conversation and what makes a difficult conversation before diving in. So, first of all, what is a hard, difficult conversation? What does that entail? What does that mean? So, for all of us, this could mean a different thing. This could mean a different perspective. We could all view having a hard conversation or difficult conversation differently because of our upbringing, because of what we went through, and what our strengths and weaknesses are when it comes to communicating effectively and efficiently. So, it all depends on the person. Sometimes it could be getting your point across or explaining your feelings or the fear of judgment or the fear of, tension or confrontation. It's all different and all based off of you and your experiences. Sometimes some of us have certain triggers and certain traumas, so having certain conversations can be harder than others. Now, what makes a conversation hard kind of ties into the same aspect. Like maybe when emotions are high, it's really hard for you to stay calm and listen. And otherwise, if someone is not as strong with communication and kind of blows up and doesn't know how to stay calm and is emotional or erratic, it's hard for you to communicate your true thoughts and feelings in that process as well. So it's very important to notice both of those things when having a conversation because, as I said, I haven't said this on this podcast, but my major was communications and my minor was health and nutrition. And even though that was my major, and I've learned a lot of healthy skills and tactics, and I've learned to be aware and listen more effectively, it's still something I struggle with, even though that was my full major. So each individual is very important to understand that you all have strengths and weaknesses when it comes to communicating effectively and efficiently. But the first step, as always, is being aware of where your strengths and weaknesses are when having these difficult conversations and learning to pull back and slow down. Now, before we dive into, me and my boyfriend, we actually got breakfast today and we got into a little bit of I don't want to say we argue, but like a disagreement. And emotions were high for me. And I basically felt like it was hard for me to communicate because my emotions were so high. And I full on just stopped and he was like, Jayla, this is so silly. And I got offended by that. And he was like, Jilly, you're choosing to be offended by that. You're choosing to be upset right now. And I sat back and I realized he was right. So I was like, I need to go to the bathroom. I walked to the bathroom and I was still upset and I breathed. I took some deep breaths in the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, I don't want to be upset right now at breakfast. What we're arguing about is so silly and it's so small. And I'm choosing to let this affect me and us to be in a scenario of frustration and anger. So I walked back and I sat down, and the only thing I said was, I'm sorry. And then he looked at me and he was like, I'm sorry too, but I don't know why you're upset. I don't know. And then I was getting more upset. And then I said it again. I'm sorry and I love you. And then he just smiled at me. And I was like, and I don't want to fight with you. And it's not worth it. And he said, I agree. And then we continued to have a wonderful, lovely breakfast. Now, this is the reason I shared this with you is because I really want to put an emphasis on how I do promote positivity and happiness, but it's very important to realize that I'm a human who experiences hard times, hard emotions, difficult conversations as well. It's very normal and it's very human. And everybody has strengths and weaknesses. So I wanted to share that to show that. And then this is going to fall perfectly into the tips I have to share with you today as well. Then we're going to tie back into that example. So, the first tip to help get through a hard conversation is to listen. Stop thinking and listen to what the person in front of you has to say. It's very important because we oftentimes are thinking about getting our point across and wanting to be understood rather than focusing on listening what this person has to say so we can sympathize and adjust accordingly. We're just focused on what we have to say and getting our point across, and that is not the way to do it, and that is not effective. Okay, we need to listen, seek to understand before being understood. Now, that's when I realized, for example, in my conversation earlier with my boyfriend, it's like, okay, I'm feeling really high emotions, so I need to either calm down first and then listen to what he has to say, or I need to just tell him we need to talk about this another time. And that is when I decided to get up, take some deep breaths, and come back. And he then decided to proceed and explain to me how he felt, and I understood. And that is when I apologized, right? Now, that doesn't dismiss my feelings and how I feel, but for a communication, disagreement, argument, whatever to work and be effective, both parties have to be willing to cooperate and hear each other out and listen. But it does have a great effect when even one person takes that first step, right? Like saying sorry or calming down. But don't make and take actions to make that other person feel manipulated or controlled or feeling bad. So, preventing things from crying, being erratic, guilt tripping, gaslighting, these negative things, bringing up things from the past, this is not effective skills to get through the conversation, right? I did not leave the conversation for him to feel bad, right? Or to feel like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. I left, I came back, and I said, I'm sorry. Instead of coming back and then continuing the conversation with anger, frustration, I said, I'm sorry, right? I was able to calm down, think, and breathe and proceed to have a good day and a good breakfast, right? My second tip would be my famous 1, 2, 3 method. I feel like I learned this from Rob Dial, or I learned it on my own or with my own twist on it. I'm not too sure. So I don't want to give myself full credit for this one, but I've implemented it and it's helped me drastically. So basically, whenever you're about to do something, say something, do something, sit and tell yourself 1, 2, 3 and just do it. I usually do this when I'm having a lazy day and I need to work out or do a chore or do some sort of studying or something like that. I go 1, 2, 3 and I do it. But it also helps when you want to communicate something that is hard for you to talk about, or you feel anxious about, or you're overthinking and you're thinking the worst. It's really good to sit and be like, okay, breathe. 1, 2, 3. I feel like blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, just say it. What's the worst that can happen? Because a lot of the times, if we don't communicate how we feel and you decide to just hold it in and hold it back because you don't want a hard conversation and you don't want to build tension or confrontation or whatever the reason may be, you're building resentment in yourself. Okay. You need to be able to communicate, because you need to remember communication, because if we hold in our thoughts and feelings, we're going to build resentment to that person, and then that's just not going to do it. All right, you need to communicate how you feel, and there's effective ways and tools to do that. Even saying things like, do you mind if I share something I've been thinking, share something that's on my mind? I have something that I've been holding in, I really want to communicate it to you. Is that okay? And I don't want you to be upset, but I also don't want to be holding this in, because I love you and I adore you and I care about you and I care about our relationship. And I just want this to be an honest conversation. Can we do that? Can I share that with you? And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, of course, right? So let's learn to do that and have these difficult conversations. Also, understand too, when having these difficult conversations, other people have been through other traumatic experiences. So some things may be hard for them. It doesn't mean that they're not going to react and be erratic sometimes. So understand that sometimes people are going to be erratic and whatever. That doesn't mean that they're toxic, right? It means they maybe have had a rough day, they're tired, maybe something triggered them. It not doesn't necessarily mean you, right? So trying to be calm when you notice someone is being erratic and take that hit sometimes. Not every time, but like for example, my mom, sometimes she has hard days, right? And she's my mom and I adore her. And for example, today I spill a drink on the floor and she's like, Jayla, are you kidding me? I was like, Mama, what should I just do like this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then that's when I realized it's not me. She's having a hard day. She wants everything to go smoothly. And that just added onto the pile. So instead of me getting upset with her for talking to me a certain way, which is, going to happen sometimes, I was calm and I said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spill it. I know you're having a rough day and I love you and I'll clean it up. You know, being and sympathizing with people and hearing them out. Instead of me reacting and getting upset, I sat and I understood what was going on. I saw that she was having a hard day and I sympathized with that. Okay. Also, another good tip is to shift your attention away from conflict with that individual and searching for a solution. Stop fighting with them and trying to argue with them and understand them and then shift your attention away so you can find a solution to the issue. So it's not a problem anymore. We want to find a solution because you guys are on the same team. You're both of your goal is to find a solution. So once you feel like you've got your point across and talked about it enough, then shift to a solution. Okay, I understand why you're upset. I understand why you're upset. What can I do to now help you get through this scenario and problem? And what can we do to be better and understand each other? So, yeah, I hope this helped you in whatever way it may. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, remember to be 1% better than you were yesterday. Have a great day.